So I finally recorded this review. This is going to be the conclusion of the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I'm of course talking about this gorgeous Assassin's Quest illustrated edition right here. So what I'm gonna warn people up front is there may be some spoilers for books 1 and 2. That is possible. This is the conclusion after all. So I may talk about a few things here and there, but I'm going to do my best to keep this spoiler free overall. Probably what I'll do is go fully spoiler free and then talk about spoilers at the end. We'll do it that way. So spoiler free up front, and then I will warn you when spoilers are starting. So Assassin's Quest is the culmination and finale of this what I consider brilliant trilogy at this point now. I had mentioned when I first read Assassin's Apprentice, I didn't really like it that much, and I waited over a year to actually return to it. But I decided to get these editions and read through it. And now I want to read the rest of Realm of the Elderlings because I hear so many good things about it. And honestly, people telling me, other than, the Rain Wild books that kind of universally get crapped on, we'll see when I get there. This tends to be one of the weaker trilogies that I've been told is in the entirety of Realm of the Elderlings. So me loving it as much as I did, I'm really excited to actually continue because I really want to get to the rest of it. I have already ordered the Live Ship trilogy, so I'll be starting that soon as well. But Assassin's Quest. So where we started off with Assassin's Apprentice as Fitz as a young boy, I believe he was 6 or so at the beginning of that. He's very much a child throughout that book, and that is his apprenticeship with an assassin. Royal Assassin, of course, is far and away, I think, the best of the trilogy. That is a damn near perfect book, in my opinion. That review's right here. That book really focuses on him as sort of a teen to young adult and his entire job as a royal assassin for King Shrewd and for Verity and, for his kingdom. This book, very much like its name, Assassin's Quest, is him as an adult. He's been through a hell of a lot since book 1, and this is a quest. I mean, very much as the name entails, it is a quest. There's a lot of walking and talking, traveling in this book. I know one of the major gripes for this story is that it's simply too long. The hardcover, just as example, I want to say it's about 880 pages, maybe. 864 is how long this hardcover is, which I think is like 200 plus pages more than Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Apprentice was like 400 or so. So it's a chunky book. I will say up front, the one negative that I pretty much agree with is the length. Now, I really, really love this book though. I was never bored. I don't have major gripes with the storytelling or the character interactions or anything like that, but I do feel like this is a book that, for the page count, a lot more should have happened or could have happened, or what did happen could have been trimmed down a little bit. Probably around the length of Royal Assassin, I think, would have hit the sweet spot, because also the other quasi-negative, and maybe this will be explained with further context from the rest of the series, I don't know yet, probably will. The ending for me was sort of a mixed bag. I liked how this conclusion wrapped up overall. It did feel a little bit rushed in a very, very long book where you probably could have redistributed some of the traveling to the ending and made that a bit longer. I think it would have been a little bit more satisfying, but overall, I love the book, so I'm not complaining too much. These are sort of nitpicky. Once again, Robin Hobb's prose is just fantastic. Beautifully written story. She just has a way with words and giving this information to you, and with that, she's created some incredibly memorable characters that really have grown since book 1. I mean, Fitz himself, like, you're on a journey with this guy through this, and obviously the rest of the Realm of the Elderlings. I can't wait to get to Fitz and the Fool, because that sounds like that's going to be right up my alley. The series up to this point, I think, also has done a fantastic job with most of the female characters. There are a few in here, some side characters that I don't really care for. I've never really cared about Molly and Fitz's relationship. It just doesn't land for me. Starling in this book is a character that you meet, and I think you meet her in this. I don't think she was in Royal Assassin. I could do without her. But it kind of reminds me, it's pretty funny. As good as the female characters are in this story, I mean, Kettrikin, fantastic in Royal Assassin. This is almost leaning into like Dresden Files territory, where everybody in the Dresden Files, like every woman is just like super attractive, and Harry's always talking about how good looking they are, and a lot of them seem to want him. that also happens here. Fitz must be just like the most gorgeous man in the Six Duchies because damn near every woman that interacts with him wants him. So that's always kind of interesting. But side note, it doesn't matter. The story's good. That's just a little minor thing that I found funny throughout this trilogy. But really this, I mean, from where Royal Assassin left off, and I'm not going to spoil the ending or anything until I get to the spoiler stuff, where our characters were, I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to wrap up, honestly. But I think overall, Robin Hobb did do a good job of concluding the story, and I do love this trilogy very, very much. I think it is something that is probably well worth a reread at some point, which I don't normally do, but just seeing things in context, little bits and pieces of information that I've probably been given since book one will make more sense, especially when you read the rest of this world if you want to. I think this is a conclusive enough ending with enough openings to where if you wanted to stop here, you could, but there's so much here that I feel like is going to be built on for the rest of her, you know, MCU, her entire universe that she's built, because this book, more so than the other books, really touches on, like, you see Fitz and the Fool, like their relationship is going to grow, and you know that those books exist. Like there are Fitz and the Fool books. You know that the Rainwilds exist because they talk about them. Like there's so many like title drops throughout this book too, where like a name of a chapter is actually like a title of one of the books, which I thought was kind of funny and probably planned, but who knows. But there's so much being explained here about the larger world of the realm of the Elderlings that it's all going to tie in and work together, and that's really exciting. I think aside from the character works, which is obviously the foundational base of this trilogy, is how good the characters are. The writing's gorgeous. We got that. Robin Hobb can write one hell of a book. Her characters are great. The Fitz, wow, I did it again. Fitz, the Fool, Burrich, Chade, Verity, Kettrikin. I mean, there are just so many great characters throughout this story that I love to read about. Some of the villains, you know, hit or miss, but for the most part, the protagonists and just that crew that you follow are fantastic. The other thing that this book does really, really well that was built on in book two is the magic system. So in book one, the wit and the skill are very, very vague. It's not a long book. It doesn't focus on it. It's kind of glossed over a little bit and it's left mysterious. Book two really focused a lot on the wit, and that was awesome. And you get a lot of that here as well, but this book really focuses on the skill. So you get sort of a well-rounded trilogy of explaining the magic to the reader and expanding on just all the possibilities and capabilities of this magic in the world. And I found that incredibly satisfying. It ended up being a really cool magic system where at the beginning I thought it was kind of lackluster because it was just super arbitrary almost and like vague, that you didn't really know what was capable other than like the skill. You can talk to people. The wit, you can talk to animals. That gets expanded on way beyond what it was established as in book one, and I really like that. So I think overall, this is a very satisfying conclusion. Probably my second favorite of the trilogy. I did just love Royal Assassin. I don't know how she's gonna top that unless one of the other trilogies is just completely better than Royal Assassin. It definitely could have been a little bit shorter, as much as I did love it. I think the length is going to turn some people off just because there is a lot of walking and talking. It is a lengthy book, and I could see some people having some issues with the ending, but I feel like there's going to be more there than we see based on the other books in the story. So I didn't love the ending, but I'm going to give it, you know, some air to breathe while I read the rest of the story. So yeah, I mean, if you love beautifully written books, you like really strong characters, you like a lot of sadness and hurdles for your main character to jump through, you're definitely going to enjoy this series for sure. It's so well done, and if this is supposed to be some of the weaker stuff that she's done, I'm all in on Realm of the Elderlings because, I mean, everybody that I've talked to has said, you know, Tawny Man's better than this, Live Ship is better than this, Fitz and the Fool is better than this. I'm really excited to get to all that. So my hat's off to Robin Hobb. Definitely a new favorite author of mine. Fantastic trilogy, even with the slight, you know, issues that I had with this book. Overall, it's a great book. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. Yeah, I could see some people's critiques, but it's great. I'm going to jump into some quick spoilers just because I want to talk about just a few things here. So if you don't want to be spoiled, just click this time code. It'll go to the end of the video, and see you next time. But Spoilers. So I was really surprised and sort of impressed at how well Robin Hobb did the introduction of this book. Like those first chapters where I've never read anything like this, where Fitz is literally back from the dead and suffering. Like it reminded me a lot of, okay, quick Game of Thrones spoiler if you haven't seen it by now. Jon dies and then is brought back, and you have all these like foreshadowing ahead of that of Thoros and Myr and Beric Dondarrion talking about how like Beric's been brought back countless times, but every time like a piece of him is dead or like he's different, he's forever changed. You get that here so well with Fitz, where he is struggling, man. He died, went into a wolf's body, and then like he's back now, and he can't help but like act like a beast, act like a wolf, like he's in and out of consciousness. He's seeing and listening to Birch and Chade, and he can't. It's like he can't cope with what's happening, and it's just the entire introductory few chapters of them going in depth of like his whole struggle. Like, oh my god, that was so cool, and that just like solidified how cool the wit was, just because of like you finally see at the end of Royal Assassin what's possible with the wit, and then you see that continuation of now he's back, and he even like that whole character moment when he's lashing out at everybody, man, and he just buries Burrich and Chade with his words, and just God, I felt that emotion in that moment when he's just pushing everybody away, and just he like yells at Burrich about like, I forget exactly what he said, but like, what if I didn't want to come back? Like, you brought me back to this awful, terrible world. Like, you feel for this guy, and you feel for Burrich because he's tried so hard to be this kid's dad and serve chivalry as he meant to, and just he wanted to raise Fitz so bad, and there were just so many like incredible emotional moments throughout this book with, you know, Fitz. Of course, I couldn't talk about this in spoiler-free talk, but like Fitz skilling and seeing Burrich helping Molly raise his kid and protect them and keep them secret, and just god damn, Fitz has been through a lot in this story. And I mean, everybody has. This world is not nice to anybody, but there were just so many great skill and wit moments that were built on here. Of course, the relationship with Night Eyes and Fitz is as strong as ever. Just, oh my god, there was just so many good character moments that really carried this book for me, which is why I didn't hate the length of it. Yeah, it's like some of the traveling and stuff could have been cut short, but not like by half or anything insane like that. There's so much great interactions and dialogue and things that I think are going to pay off later. Like, you have these great relationships that have been built up in this trilogy and really shined in this book that I loved damn near every second of it, even though I could see the argument for shortening the book a little bit. It was long. Some of the actual like plot stuff could have been sped up a little bit. But then you get to the end, and the end is kind of where I'm up and down on the end. I was satisfied with the way that the book ended, but also it was kind of weird. It was like I share some of the gripes that people have of like, really, this is what we were building to, like 3 books and Verity is just in some fucking place carving dragon statues. Like, that's weird. And then like you have Kettle, who's like, oh, by the way, like we can just unlock her powers and then you can empower the dragon. Like, some of that was a little bit convenient. Some of it was kind of weird. It was cool, but at the same time I was like, oh, like that's what the Elderlings are, just literally dragons that we're gonna revive. And then Verity like becoming a dragon, I assume that's gonna come back later. This is why I don't totally hate the ending. It was cool. It was weird. I was sort of like, okay, I feel like this should have been fleshed out a little bit more, but overall I enjoy the book as a whole for sure, but the ending I felt like should have had more time to breathe, because it does wrap up sort of quickly. It's like, okay, we got the dragon. Verity burns all the red ships. Regal like was good and helped them, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then he died, and I was like, okay, so Chade, I think, assassinated him or whatever happened. I think that's what they hinted at. I feel like some of the walking and talking in the middle should have been trimmed to make the ending a little bit better, but we'll see how it pays off. I still love the book, but I do see and sort of agree with some of these gripes that I've heard. I also just, throughout this trilogy, I don't think I've ever read a book that's made me feel so bad for a main character. I know I mentioned some of it before, but like Fitz is almost through parts of this book, like he is as alone as ever. And I mean, the beginning of Assassin's Apprentice, you have this kid who's a bastard. He's treated like crap. He's put through the ringer with these assholes just giving him a terrible life because of who he is. And he's never felt so lonely at that point that like he almost kills himself in book 1. And then he's an adult in book 3, and it's like he still feels that. And it's like he can't even talk to Burrich and Molly. Like he can't acknowledge his own kid. He's completely shut off from so many people. Like Kettricken is a wreck. Like Kettle and Verity, like, well, Kettle not so much, but like Verity, he's spent this whole time trying to like serve his prince and king in waiting, and he finally gets to him, and he's just like this skill master, I don't know, old man building dragons. Like he's not even like who he wanted him to be anymore when he got to him. It's just, Fitz is just, he just needs to like go off in the woods with Fool and Night Eyes and just like have a wolf pack and just stay away from humans, because humans are garbage. I just wanted to share some spoiler thoughts, just that I can't really talk about in spoiler-free stuff, obviously. It was super cool, and I'm glad that we got a lot of the context and stuff that we did in this book. Yeah, I have some issues, as you know now, but overall I still loved it. So, real quick, the last thing that I feel like could have been better just throughout this trilogy as a whole, and I get it. It's not the focus of the story, but the Red Ship Raiders always felt like too much of a background villain to me that didn't really pay off in any satisfying way. That's just my opinion of it. I don't know if you guys disagree with that or not, but I felt like in book 1 that was going to be like a really big thing that's going to be at the forefront and they're going to have to deal with directly. And I just feel like it kind of was just in the background for the most part. I didn't really end up like caring about the Red Ship Raiders all that much, because you really just focus on the character interactions and the politicking and that sense. I love this trilogy. I really do enjoy this book a lot. I do have some negative points about it, but it's not enough to drag this down for me. I still really, really highly recommend this series. I loved it. So that's going to wrap up my first introduction to Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings. Farseer is great, and I can't wait to see where everything goes from here, because this is truly the foundation of it. I really like Fitz as a character, and I want to follow him more, and the Fool as well. So give me more of that. That's going to do it though, guys. So like and subscribe. As always, do hit up Patreon if you want to support the channel financially. That's always optional, but always greatly appreciated. Definitely drop in the comments down below, and or join Discord. Let me know your thoughts on the Farseer trilogy. What was your favorite? I have yet to see anybody not have Royal Assassin as their favorite, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on your favorites, your likes, your dislikes of this trilogy as a whole, this book specifically. Let me know, and until next time, guys, keep reading.